So your experience today is going to include the bookends of World War II for America right here. The attack at Pearl Harbor marks the beginning, and the surrender aboard the battleship Missouri, September 2nd, 1945, marks the end of the war. And here we are. This is our visitor center right here.
Yan po ang Pearl Harbor Museum. Punta po tayo sa loob anytime, so to visit the memorial. Okay. See you later. Ito na yung Pearl Harbor Monument. Punta na kami doon.
Okay, so I'm going to explain to you guys what happened. Now, this is what the monument would look like. It's fully operational. Alright? So when you guys are on the water, you're going to notice that this little section right here is missing.
Director.
Okay? About 3 years ago, the Navy has a medical hospital ship known as the Mercy. It travels the world helping out with a lot of humanitarian efforts. A great example is Haiti when they were hit with that bad storm. Okay, so the Mercy was actually right over here in this dock, which is actually right over here in this area. As the Mercy was backing out, the tugboat that was right behind of it actually hit the dock itself. So it caused this bridge right here to flex. And from that, you had all those microfractures inside of there. So for the last 3 years, the Navy's been doing what I like to call a Band-Aid patchwork. Anybody that does repair work, you realize that that's just something temporary. It's just costing people money. So the Navy shut it down for safety reasons. Now this was 1 year ago already, over 1 year. All right. Now the captain of the Mercy was reprimanded, and the captain of the tugboat was fired. All right. So please do not be mad at your bus driver. Okay? Everybody gets mad at the tour guide. I wasn't even here. All right. Now, this is the part most people. Why didn't they fix it yet? Why? What's taking so long? Should be something real simple. But one part is when that tugboat hit this right here, this is actually anchored down into the ground. So when he hit it, it loosened up all the chains. So that's one problem that they got to fix underneath. Now the money, that's what everything costs, right? You need money, huh? The money that was committed to fixing this is actually going into another bigger project taking place in the mainland. In particular, the state of Texas. All right? So we're going to leave it right there. All right? You guys know what I'm talking about, right?
We understand. We're from Texas.
Okay, then you know
Texas is always first.
Yeah, you guys are. But that's where the money went. For a lot of the national parks, and even with a lot of the damages they faced, you know, that's where the money went to. So, please, not me, all right? Let's go. So, we actually have a second tour just like this. That's going to be going with us.
Pasok na kami sa entrance ng Pearl Harbor Monument for a tour. So, ito na yun. Marami ding mga visitors na coming for the day. So, ito siya. So, ang lineup, ito yung mga nation.
Basically, we're going to go into a single file. Do a single file line, and we're going to go right through a security checkpoint right up over here. Once we're through the security checkpoint, I'm going to escort you guys to the open area over there. That's the debriefing area. Once we get in the debriefing area, I'm going to explain the area to you guys. I'm going to grab the tickets, come back over, give you guys all your tickets, and that's when I'm also going to give you the return time to the bed.
Tour guide, nagbibigay ng instructions.
So you guys from Texas? What part?
Dallas.
Dallas. Oh, I got some friends that live up over there. Where you guys from?
Georgia.
My wife would be in love with you. My wife is pure Japanese and she considers herself a Georgia kid. She went to the university over there.
Inside the Pearl Harbor Monument, Hawaii.
That big building right on the side of the street, that we have an 8 o'clock show on Sunday.
Kanilang tora-tora during the World War II, the US forces against the Japanese imperial forces.
Kuhanan ko po kayong dalawa dyan. Ang torpedo. Ako daw ang gimdoy, kuya.
Torpedoes during the World War II.
Abang yun natin niya. Baliktad kasi niya ako mahilig dito. Oo, sumagtaling ito namin.
USS Arizona.
Asking us whether we would like to join him on the mainland or go back to Japan. This was January 1980. What was going on in China? Or we had had years before.
Fallen heroes, list of names of the Pearl Harbor attack by the Japanese army during the World War II. Here are the names, mga names nila.
That's clear. However, 1 second. Stand.
Walk ride going to the memorial of the USS Arizona.
Ladies and gentlemen, the National Park Service and the United States Navy welcome you to Pearl Harbor. Please remain seated for the duration of the boat ride and watch your step as you embark and disembark the vessel. Standing is not permitted at any time while the vessel is underway. We ask that you silence your cell phones and refrain from texting during your time on board. Once we approach the USS Arizona Memorial, the U.S. Navy will maneuver the boat so that everyone has an opportunity to take photos. But again, no standing is permitted for the duration of the ride. If you have any questions during your visit today, please speak with a National Park Service representative after you return to the visitor center. Once again, welcome to World War II Valor in the Pacific National Monument, which is the proud home of the USS Arizona Memorial, the USS Oklahoma Memorial, and the USS Utah Memorial. Today, the U.S. Navy and the National Park Service will take you on a harbor tour of Pearl Harbor and bring you close to the USS Arizona Memorial and the valiant ship that lies beneath. We are now in the South Channel of Pearl Harbor, where the infamous battleship Roe was once located along the southern coast of Ford Island and off the bow of the boat as we cross the harbor. It is here that the great warships of America's Pacific Fleet were moored on the morning of December 7, 1941. From right to left, there was the USS Nevada, Arizona, the repair ship Vestal, the Tennessee, West Virginia, Maryland, Oklahoma, and a bit farther down, the California. An 8th battleship, Pennsylvania, was nearby in dry dock undergoing repairs. The battleship Utah still rests on the bottom of the harbor and a short distance from shore on the opposite side of Ford Island. The mighty battleships were the backbone of the Pacific Fleet, and each boasted a crew of nearly 1,500 men. In all, almost 200 American vessels were located in Pearl Harbor that day. Off the starboard bow, or right front, of the boat, you can still see the white concrete mooring keys that continue to display some of these names. The battleships that came to Pearl Harbor back then did not drop anchor to secure their position. Instead, they were tied to these white concrete blocks, which were built in the 1930s. The Pacific Fleet tended to tie 2 ships together, one inboard, closest to the keys, and one outboard. The mooring key closest to the bridge was reserved for the USS Nevada. The Nevada was the only battleship to get underway during the attack on Oahu.
Guys, we will be kind of far from the memorial, but I'll give you guys the best opportunities you guys can for photos. Please note that I'll be maneuvering the boat for both sides to have the equal chance to take pictures. So once again, please remain seated. In addition to that, we're going to head over to the USS Missouri for additional opportunities for photos as well. So once again, please remain seated throughout the entire boat ride. Mahalo.
They saw this great warship moving out of the harbor and began to attack. She was badly damaged by Japanese dive bombers and torpedo planes, and eventually was purposely run aground on a coral ledge to avoid sinking. Almost 60 USS Nevada crew members lost their lives in this short time. Despite this great sacrifice, Nevada's attempted exit was met with cheers from other sailors and Marines witnessing the attack, and served as a morale boost for many. Following an extensive salvage operation, the USS Nevada's guns boomed once again as she provided fire support for Americans who stormed the beaches of Normandy, southern France, Iwo Jima, and Okinawa. Continuing on, the attack on Pearl Harbor began at 7:55 a.m., with torpedo planes coming in waves from both the north and south, while flying at an altitude of only 30 feet. The first few torpedoes slammed into the hull of the USS Oklahoma, exactly in the spot where the battleship Missouri is today. Oklahoma began to tilt, and in less than 12 minutes, she had completely rolled over. Consequently, 429 sailors and Marines were lost on the Oklahoma. A memorial dedicated to these men was erected on the shoreline, where many of her crew first set foot on Hawaiian soil years ago. The West Virginia, Tennessee, Maryland, California, and Pennsylvania were all damaged to varying degrees during the attack, losing almost 250 crew members among them. Despite sustaining serious damage and settling to the harbor floor following the attack, the West Virginia and California were salvaged and put back into service as well. Both of them would play a vital role in the coming conflict in the Pacific. On December 7, 1941, the USS Arizona was moored here next to the USS Vestal, a smaller repair ship. At 7:55 a.m., the ship's air raid alarm went off, and the ship soon went to general quarters, the call for all hands to go to their battle stations immediately. For the next 10 minutes, the men of the Arizona endured strafing from incoming Japanese planes and bombs from Nakajima B-5N Kate torpedo bombers, which carried armor-piercing shells modified into 800 kilogram or 1,750 pound bombs. At 8:06 a.m., a fatal blow struck the Arizona. The Japanese bomb cut through the deck in the vicinity of gun turret number 2, which would have been about 200 feet to the left of the memorial. Seconds later, it detonated the ammunition magazines located in the forward section of the ship. The result was a massive explosion that tore the ship in half and set off a fire that burned for more than 2 days and consumed 1,000 shrine room. You'll notice that the memorial has 2 peaks on each end and sags in the center. Mr. Price stated that his design represented American pride before the attack, the sudden depression that followed it, and America's eventual rise to victory at the end of the war. At the very back of the memorial, nearest to Ford Island, is the shrine room. Covering its back wall are the names of 1,177 American servicemen who died on board. That is the largest loss of life of any ship in American naval history. 2 separate sections display the names of USS Arizona survivors who later chose to be returned to the ship following their passing. Any surviving crew member of the USS Arizona who was assigned were salvaged for later use as coastal defenses. On December 6, 1941, just 1 day before the attack, the USS Arizona had taken on almost 1.4 million gallons of fuel oil in preparation for an upcoming trip to the mainland. Much of that oil caught fire and burned following the attack. However, the fuel that remains slowly leaks from the wreckage at a rate of about 1 to 2 gallons per day. The National Park Service and the U.S. Navy carefully monitor the site, but at this time, the oil leakage poses no environmental hazard. The Arizona Survivors Association has referred to these surfacing drops of oil as the black tears of the Arizona. Although there is no way of knowing how long the oil will seep out, many believe that the ship will continue to cry these black tears until the last survivor of the USS Arizona passes on. The USS Arizona Memorial is 184 feet long and is suspended directly over, but not touching, the wreckage of the USS Arizona. It was completed in 1962 and dedicated on Memorial Day that year. The designer and architect. This devastating blow cost the Japanese 29 planes and 56 airmen. On December 7, 1941, Pearl Harbor witnessed the dawn of a new era. As World War II came to American shores, men and women fought and died side by side. Many of them remain in these waters and in the surrounding landscapes for eternity. We, the living, are left to understand their story, remember their sacrifice, and honor their memory. As we return to the visitor center, we ask that you remain seated as the U.S. Navy brings the boat to the dock. If you have any questions, please find a park ranger or volunteer here at the visitor center, and they'll be happy to answer your questions. On behalf of the National Park Service and the U.S. Navy, thank you for visiting Pearl Harbor. We hope you enjoy the remainder of your visit and wish you farewell.